Okay, so last round of solving inequalities, and I think the only thing that could make these any harder is if when we solve for the x-intercepts, we don't have a nice factorization to do. So what do? We turn to completing the square or the quadratic formula. So that's what I'm going to do in these ones to just to make things harder. But the game plan's still the same. Also, what's challenging about letter A, unlike everything else that we've seen, we're not set equal to 0. So that's easy enough. We'll just add 11 to both sides, right? And this inequality becomes x squared plus 7x plus 11 is less than 0. At this stage, since the leading coefficient is 1, I know that we have a parabola that is opening downwards, right? So that's all I can, or excuse me, opening upwards. Okay, as far as x-intercepts are concerned, I'm going to set this equal to 0. And as promised, right, there's really not a nice factorization for this at all. So we basically turn to completing the square or the formula. And I'm not going to complete the square on this because that's a 7, and dividing 7 by 2 is 7 halves, and we're going to introduce fractions. So we might as well, to find the x-intercepts, use our quadratic formula. So I'm going to plug things in. So we're taking negative b plus or minus b squared minus a 4 times an a times a c, all of this divided by 2 times a. So now we simplify this. We got a negative 7 plus or minus the square root of 49 minus 44 all over 2. And this gives us negative 7 plus or minus the square root of 5 over 2. So they're not complex, right? So they are real. They're not nice, right? They're those irrational zeros that we talked about, I think, in 11.3. So we basically have negative 7, take away the square root of negative 5 over 2 comma 0 as an x-intercept, or negative 7 plus the square root of 5 over 2 over 0. And the square root of 5 is roughly about 2.1. So this is going to be, right, so if I started to graph this, I'm basically going to be over on the negative side. So negative 7 and then a little bit more, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, going about 2.1-ish, right? Right there's roughly that x-intercept. Again, this is about 2.1-ish. Take that away from 7, so we're talking a little bit under, right around, what would that be? Negative 7, that's about negative 5 divided by 2, so about negative 2.5. So we have another one right there. I have a parabola that's opening up, right? We know that from our earlier discussion. So here is a quick sketch of what this parabola looks like. All right, so again, same game plan. What was a little tougher was finding the x-intercepts. They're irrational numbers, but they're still x-intercepts. So we want to know when we're below the x-axis, so that happens down here. So we're basically in between those two zeros. We don't want to be equal to, so basically it's that region between them. So my solution would be negative 7 minus the square root of 5 comma 2, negative 7 plus the square root of 5 over 2, and then open, right? This is an interval, right? So starting at that 0 to that 0 and everybody in between is what that is basically telling us, all right? So let me go ahead, since that was a little tough and there was a lot of things to go, that took me a little over 4 minutes. So I'm going to break away and do the next one in a video coming soon. Talk to you guys later.